Our first example in this series of videos is video 10.1, Write Dictionary. All right, so in this video, we're going to discuss how to write a content of the dictionary object, such as contacts, into a file, how to save this information into a file. And this program is really dependent on the structure of dictionary entries. It's not very generic, it's custom written for this specific structure of our dictionary. All right, so we're working with the context dictionary that we used earlier in our videos. And I remind you that I'm expecting that you already finished practicing textbook examples and other tutorials to get comfortable with an idea of file creation, file reading and writing. And so here we're just going to discuss this, essentially all the information specific to how would you actually work with the dictionary when you have an idea of saving it into a file. All right. So first of all, what I do here is that I create a string file name, and my file name, as you can see, does not include any path. Basically, the whole path to the file is made up of the name of the file and its extension, right? So in that case, the file will be created or written in the current directory, right? So every process that starts in the system has current directory, and our file will be created there. Then what I do here, generally, I approach my writing and creation of this file through with open statement. You already know that when you have a successful open function call, then the requirement is that you close the file by issuing a matching the corresponding close call. So the file is required to be closed in order for information to be saved in the file and correctly. And so each open requires a close. So sometimes program could be a little messy, so it's hard to keep track of like open and close all perfectly matching in your code. So with open statement helps quite a bit to simplify the coding by defining a block of code like this attached to with open statement, which first of all, it calls the open function, and the open function returns back a file object. And in my case, I refer to it as output file. So output file is a file object which has all functions necessary to work with the file. It includes read and write and some other data attributes for manipulating the open file. And the advantage of using with open, right, like this, is that at the end of this block of code, the file will be closed automatically, which creates a very, like high level of convenience that you really don't need to worry about closing the file because it will be closed automatically. All right, so this is quite convenient. Another interesting part of this example is that I import the system module, which includes access to standard output and also standard input and standard error log devices. These are the stream devices which are by default attached, in case of a console application. The standard output goes to the screen, the standard input comes from the keyboard, and standard error log is also a screen. But it's possible to change that and, for instance, redirect standard output into a file by simply using our file object and assigning it to std out, to standard output, which is part of the system module implementation. So the advantage of that is that if we say that our output, our standard output, should go into this file, then we can use all familiar print function calls, and the output, which normally we see on the screen, will be redirected into a file. It will just go into the file, and we can use print formats to write into the file, which I find very, very convenient. And you can sort of like reuse the same code that one time could be printing on the screen and another time writing into the file. So this is quite a good level of flexibility. So then the actual work with the file, I'll show you the structure of the file once we create it, but just beforehand, that you know, at the beginning I sort of like write a header into this file, and I'm using all familiar pound sign, a hashtag in front of these two lines, which I consider to be comments, right? So they're just comments in my file. So when I will be loading this file, I just simply will be ignoring the lines that start with the hashtag as being like recognized as comments. So that's just a demo type of format, and I already mentioned that my file format is custom, right? It's designed specifically for what I want to do with my context dictionary. Okay, and so the dictionary, of course, includes the index, the numeric index as key, and lists of strings as individual values in our dictionary. So this is what we're going to be writing here, and you can see that I simply iterate through the contacts, through all the items in my dictionary. So I get my key, I name it index, I print the index, and you know that this type of print will, of course, create just one separate line in the file, and then for each item, which like item is the value here, which I extract from each value, which is the list. So from each list, I extract every string, and I just simply print it into the file. And then I also decide that I would like to use a single pound sign as a separator between dictionary items, which will help me to code my dictionary loading program. So we'll just print like this. And then all these, you know, the loop through the entire dictionary structure will stop. And at the end of this work, I restore standard output. And for this, I preserve the standard output device before I change it. And so here I say, okay, I'm all done working with this file, and so standard output goes back to whichever assignment it had before, and then I report that everything looks good. So let's just simply try running this program in my command window. All right, so this directory is current directory in this command window. I run it, and it says everything looks good. And you can see that the contacts.txt just appeared in this directory. So I'm going to open it, and you can see what has happened. So this is the header, right? So I prefixed these outputs with the hashtag, hoping that when I write my loading program, it will be using hashtags as comments and ignoring these lines, but it's very convenient so that we can maintain our files outside of our programs. 10, 11, 12, and 13, these are the keys, and then they're followed by strings which represent whatever dictionary value lists contained, and then I separate individual dictionary entries by the pound sign, right? So this is the type of output format that I decided to support and create this type of file for my dictionary writing. Okay, so it'll be more interesting when we're going to try to load this information. How do we approach loading this information? But I find this approach with creating a dictionary file, this output file, quite simple, right? So it's just like very straightforward iteration through our dictionary and just printing everything into a file.